This is the 7th day of the September '89 7-day retreat at Springwater. Before we get into reading from some of the works of Wang Po and Krishnamurti, two things have come up in meetings which need clarifying. So we're taping that portion, the reading, tape of the readings, since it is of copyrighted material, will not be available. One person said, yesterday in a talk, did I understand you right, that you were saying, originally, when you were asked to do teaching, to do the teaching at a Zen center, you didn't want to do this. And now, you are doing this work because people are coming here wanting to talk to you, wanting to hear your talks, but you don't really want to do it. It's us who are making you do this. Are we making you do something that you don't want to do? I'm glad the person brought this up so we can clarify this, and if there's this misunderstanding in anyone's mind, no one is making me do something I don't want to do. As I put it in one meeting, it just burst out like this. This work is an expression of love. It's a work of love. And I'm not saying that to sound beautiful. I mean it. I love to do this. And it is not you versus me, you making me do something. We're in this together as I see it. It is so, not just as I see it, is so. To me, it's absolutely unfathomable how we come here together and sit together in silence, questioning together, looking, clarifying, and learning from each other in the process. If one is really with it, there, listening, questioning, not from the me point of view, but if the me needs to be clarified, then we'll clarify that. But where in this process is there me and you? We're both looking. Without any particular point of view, without any particular prejudice. We may clarify prejudice, but we can't do it unless there's no prejudice. And when there is none of that, then where is there me or you? Teacher or student, wanting or not wanting. It's not a matter of choice. It's doing what is there to do. Another question that was brought up, you talked about attachment, the danger of becoming attached to Toni. And the thought comes up, well, yes, there is an attachment, so does it mean I shouldn't come here anymore because I'm attached to her? No, this place and this work is to reveal and investigate and lay bare attachment, to see through it. Understand it as it happens from moment to moment, not as some psychological knowledge, but as an insight that happens as attachment is revealed. We come here together as we are. What are we? Can we find out? Look and listen, and also be open to the wind in the trees, call of the bird and the sound of the plane. Aren't we all of that? Unable to put a name or a word to it. We'll read some selections from the Zen teaching of Wang Po, translated by John Blofeld. We've read it in almost every retreat for the last I don't know how many years. Different selections, some always the same. But can one listen with new ears, with a mind that is not anchored in memory, but openly looking, not just hearing the words, but looking at the same time. Wang Po was a Chinese Zen teacher who lived in the 9th century, and these dialogues and sermons of which we just read extracts, words, passages, sentences omitted. These were gathered by his disciple, who was a scholar, a Buddhist scholar, and also the governor of the province where Wang Po taught. We'll read a dialogue that took place approximately 1,000 years ago. Questioner, what is the way and how must it be followed? Wang Po, what sort of a thing do you suppose the way to be that you should wish to follow it? Questioner, what instructions have the masters everywhere given for meditation practice and the study of the truth, or the true teachings? Wang Po, words used to attract the dull of wit are not to be relied on. Questioner, if those teachings were meant for the dull-witted, I have yet to hear what truth has been taught to those of really high capacity. Wang Po, if they're really people of high capacity, where could they find people to follow?
If they seek from within themselves, they will find nothing tangible.
How much less can they find a teaching worthy of their attention elsewhere?
Do not look to what is called the true teaching by preachers, for what sort of true teaching could that be?
Questioner, if that is so, should we not seek for anything at all? One can see the logical mind in operation. And should we seek for not anything at all? Wang Po, by conceding this,
You would save yourself a lot of mental effort.
Questioner, but in this way, everything would be eliminated. Logic, everything then would be eliminated. If we don't seek for anything, then everything is eliminated. All the goals are eliminated, all the promises. Questioner, there cannot just be nothing. And Wang Po says, who called it nothing? Who was this fellow? But you wanted to seek for something. Questioner, since there is no need to seek, why do you also say that not everything is eliminated? Since there's no need to seek, why do you also say that not everything is eliminated? Wang Po, not to seek is to rest tranquil. Who told you to eliminate anything? Look at the void in front of your eyes. And void here does not mean a vacuum, but everything, without a name, without a reaction to it, without knowing it. Look at the void in front of your eyes. How can you produce it or eliminate it? Questioner, if I could reach this truth, would it be like the void? Wang Po, morning and night I have explained to you that the void is both the one and the manifold. I said this as a temporary expedient, but you are building up concepts from it. Questioner, do you mean we should not form concepts as human beings normally do? We know this question so well, don't we? Shouldn't we think at all? Is it wrong to think? Wang Po says, I have not prevented you, but concepts are related to the senses, and when feeling takes place and concepts are formed, wisdom is shut out. Wisdom meaning what comes out of seeing directly, not thinking about it. Questioner, then should we avoid any feeling in relation to the true teaching? Wang Po, where no feeling arises, who can say that you are right? Questioner, why do you speak as though I was mistaken in all the questions I've asked your reverence? And Wang Po, you are a man who doesn't understand what is said to him. What is all this about being mistaken? Question, up to now you have refuted everything which has been said. You have done nothing to point out the true teaching to us, or the truth to us. Wang Po, in truth there is no confusion.
but you produce confusion by such questions. What sort of true Dharma or true teaching can you go seeking for? Questioner, since the confusion arises from my questions, what will your reverence's answer be? Wangpo, observe things as they are and don't pay attention to other people. There are some people just like mad dogs barking at everything that moves, even barking when the wind stirs among the grass and leaves. Later on, someplace he says, what is called supreme perfect wisdom implies that there is really nothing whatever to be attained. If you're able to understand this, you will realize that the way of the Buddhas and the way of the devils are equally wide of the mark. The original, pure, glistening universe is neither square nor round, big nor small. It is with any such distinctions as long and short. It is beyond attachment and activity, ignorance and enlightenment. You must see clearly that there is really nothing at all. The great chilocosms, numberless as grains of sand, are mere bubbles. All wisdom and all holiness are but streaks of lightning. None of them have the reality of mind. Mind is one. How can it lack a single hair of anything? When we talk of the knowledge I, in quotation marks, may gain, the learning I may achieve, my intuitive understanding, my deliverance from rebirth, and my moral way of living. Our successes make these concepts seem pleasant to us, but our failures make them appear deplorable. What is the use of all that? I advise you to remain uniformly quiescent and above all activity. Which doesn't mean staying in bed. Someone asks, does this mean not becoming anything that we shouldn't work or learn something? I think after sitting days of retreat, there's some understanding what this activity refers to. Mental, emotional, constant activity, which can slow down. It can even cease. Forever, that's another manifestation of the activity. Will it last forever? I advise you to remain uniformly quiescent and above all activity. Do not deceive yourselves with conceptual thinking, and do not look anywhere for the truth. For all that is needed is to refrain from allowing concepts to arise. It is obvious that mental concepts and external perceptions are equally misleading, and that the way of the Buddhas is as dangerous to you as the way of demons. Full understanding can come to you only through an inexpressible mystery. The approach to it is called the gateway of the stillness beyond all activity. If you wish to understand, know that a sudden comprehension comes when the mind is purged of all the clutter of conceptual and discriminatory thought activity. Those who seek the truth by means of intellect and learning only get further and further away from it. Not till your thoughts cease all their branching here and there, not till you abandon all thoughts of seeking for something, will you be on the right road. And that, he just told us, doesn't exist. Here later he says, though others may talk of the way of the Buddhas as something to be reached by various pious practices and by scripture study, you must have nothing to do with such ideas. A perception, sudden as blinking, that subject and object are one, which means no division, not me and my thoughts, me and my pain. That's what he calls by subject and object being one. Will lead to a deeply mysterious, wordless understanding. And by this understanding you will awake to the truth. When you happen upon someone who has no understanding, you must claim to know nothing. He may be delighted by his discovery of some way to enlightenment. Yet if you allow yourselves to be persuaded by him, you will experience no delight at all, but suffer both sorrow and disappointment. Even if you do obtain from him some trifling method, it will only be a thought-constructed thing having nothing to do with truth. Truth is something never lost to you even in moments of delusion, nor is it gained at the moment of enlightenment. It depends on nothing and is attached to nothing. It is all-pervading, spotless beauty. It is the self-existent and uncreated absolute. Ah, it is a jewel beyond all price. When a sudden flash of thought occurs in your mind, and you see it for a dream or an illusion, then you can enter into the state reached by the Buddhas of the past, not that the Buddhas of the past really exist, or that the Buddhas of the future have not yet come into existence. Above all, have no longing to become a future Buddha. Your sole concern should be as thought succeeds thought, to avoid clinging to any of them. The last selection, but how can we prevent ourselves from falling into the error of making distinctions between this and that? We talked about it. Labeling, reacting, and then what comes from reaction, and more thoughts, and more reacting to that, and this constant cycle of thought, sensation, emotion. How can we prevent ourselves from falling into the error of making distinctions between this and that? Which doesn't mean that there's the sound of a plane, and that's not the sound of a bird. But the word bird, the word plane, and the reactions to it, like and dislike, that is not what is actually going on in the sound. It comes later. And as it unfolds, the sound disappears, and what goes on inside with reaction and emotion takes up the stage. How can we prevent ourselves from falling into the error of making distinctions between this and that? And Wang Po says, by realizing that though you eat the whole day through, no single grain has passed your lips. A day's journey has not taken you a single step forward. Also, by uniformly abstaining from such notions as self and other, do not permit the events of your daily lives to bind you, but never withdraw yourselves from them. Avoid the error of thinking in terms of past, present, and future. The past is gone, the present is a fleeting moment, and the future is not yet come. When you practice meditation, sit in the proper position, which in this country today includes chairs. Somebody just wrote me that. Somebody had said that a proper meditator or Buddhist never sits in a chair. Sit in the proper position. I don't even know what the proper position is. But experiment with it. Without any conclusion, except what feels right at the particular moment. When the mind is uncluttered with ideas of right posture and wrong posture, the back may sort of straighten itself quite lightly, easily, beyond its not within the anatomical limits. Stay perfectly tranquil, he says here. I don't know what that is either. Perfection, let's drop that word. It's a very, very dangerous concept the human brain has invented. Perfection. Has given rise to incredible torment and suffering and control of self and others. And he says, and do not permit the least movement of your minds to disturb you. Again, is that control, not permitting, or is it the awareness in which a disturbing thought may not arouse a disturbing emotion? It's not a disturbing thought, it's just a thought. When it's seen for what it is, instantly. If not, then of course it arouses an emotion. We're wired that way. But what he's talking about here, do not permit the least movement of your minds to disturb you. Will one go on putting oneself down because there has been a thought? Involvement in thought. Or just let that be. See it and move on, whatever is there. Last time, for the first time, we read the very beginning of a discussion period which took place with Krishnamurti. It says here, Krishnamurti talks with a small group at Ojai, drawn from the Krishnamurti schools and foundations in Canada, England, India, and the USA. And this was so well received, people told me, that we'll read a little bit more of this discussion. There are no names to the questioners, only questioner 1, 2, and so forth. But when Krishnamurti talks, there's a K. Questioner, can we discuss the relation between Krishnamurti's teaching and truth? Second questioner, is there such a thing as a teaching at all, or is there only truth? This is from The Wholeness of Life. Can we discuss the relation between Krishnamurti's teaching and truth? One person asks. And the second asks, is there such a thing as a teaching at all, or is there only truth? Krishnamurti, is it the expression of truth? There are two things involved. The speaker is either talking out of the silence of truth, or he is talking out of the noise of an illusion, which he considers to be the truth. Questioner, that is what most people do. Okay, so what is it that he is doing? Questioner, there could be a confusion between the word and truth. Okay, no, the word is not the truth. That's why we said either he is talking out of the silence of truth or out of the noise of illusion. Questioner, but because one feels that he is speaking out of the silence of truth, there is a greater possibility for the word to be taken as truth. Okay, now let's go slowly, for this is interesting. Who is going to judge? Who is going to see the truth of the matter? The listener? The reader? You who know Indian scriptures, Buddhism, the Upanishads, etc., you are familiar with them and know most of the contents of all of that. Are you capable of judging? How shall we find out? You hear him talking about these things and you wonder if he's really speaking out of this extraordinary silence of truth, or as a reaction and from a conditioned childhood and so on. That is to say, either he is talking out of his conditioning or out of the other. How will you find out? How will you approach this problem? Questioner, is it possible for me to find out if what is meeting that teaching is the noise within myself? Okay, that's why I'm asking you. What is the criterion, the measure that you apply so you can say, yes, that is it? Or do you say, I don't know? I'm asking what you do. Or don't you know but are examining, investigating, not whether he is speaking out of silence or conditioning, but you're watching the truth of what he is saying. I would want to know whether he is speaking out of this or out of that. But as I don't know, I'm going to listen to what he is saying and see if it is true. Questioner, but what sees it as true? Okay. Say one is fairly alive to things. One listens to this man and one wants to find out whether what he says is mere words or the truth. Questioner, when I have come to the conclusion that it is the truth, then I'm already not listening. Okay, no, I don't know. My life is concerned with this problem, not just for a few years or a few days. I want to know the truth of this matter. Is he speaking out of experience or from knowledge, or not out of any of these things? Most people speak out of knowledge, so we're asking that question. I don't know how you would find out. I'll tell you what I would do. I would put his personality, his influence, all that completely aside. because I don't want to be influenced. I'm skeptical, doubtful, so I'm very careful. I listen to him and I don't say I know or I don't know, but I'm skeptical. I want to find out. Questioner. Skeptical means you are inclined to doubt it, which is already a bias. Okay, oh no. I'm skeptical in the sense that I don't accept everything that is being said. Questioner, but you lean towards doubting. It's negation. Oh no, says Kay. I would rather use the word doubt in the sense of questioning. Let's put it that way. I say to myself, am I questioning out of my prejudice? This question has never been put to me before. I am exploring it. I would put everything aside. All the personal reputation, charm, looks, this and that. I'm not going to accept or reject. I'm going to listen to find out. Am I prejudiced? Am I listening to him with all the knowledge that I've gathered about religion, of what the books have said, what other people have said, or what my own experience tells me? Questioner, no. I may be listening to him precisely because I have rejected all that. Okay, have I rejected it? Or am I listening to him with all of that? If I have rejected that, then I am listening. Then I'm listening very carefully to what he has to say. Question, or am I listening with everything that I already know of him? Okay, I have said I've put away his reputation. Am I listening to him with the knowledge that I've acquired through books, through experience, and therefore I am comparing, judging, evaluating? Then I can't find out whether what he is saying is the truth. But is it possible for me to put all that aside? I'm passionately interested to find out. So for the time being, while I'm listening at least, I will put aside everything I have known. Then I proceed. I want to know, but I'm not going to be easily persuaded, pulled into something by argument, cleverness, logic. Now, am I capable of listening to what he is saying with complete abandonment of the past? It comes to that. Are you? Then my relationship to him is entirely different. Then I'm listening out of silence. This is really a very interesting question. I've answered it for myself. There are a dozen of us here. How would you answer it? How do you know that what he is talking about is the truth? And we'll skip over some and go on in bits and pieces. In this discussion group is a man by the name of David Bohm. He's a very eminent theoretical physicist and has done a lot of discussing with Krishnamurti. And one of the questioners in this is David Bohm, and we're listening to what he has to say. Okay, Dr. Bohm and I had a discussion of this kind in a different way. If I remember rightly, we said, is there such a silence which is not the word, which is not imagined or induced? A silence which is not imagined or induced. We can imagine a silence or induce one with practices, but he says, is there one which is not induced or imagined? Is there such a silence? And is it possible to speak out of that silence? And someone says the question was whether the words are coming from perception, from the silence, or from the memory. Yes, says Kay. The question is whether the words that are used are communicating directly and coming out of the emptiness, out of silence or not. That's the real question, says Kay. And someone says, as we used to say, like the drum which vibrates to the emptiness within. Drum which vibrates to the emptiness within. Kay, yes. Someone says, can we say that truth is in the silence out of which the teaching comes? Okay, but I want to know how the silence comes. I might invent it. I might have worked to have a silent mind for years, conditioned it, kept it in a cage, and then say, marvelous, I am silent. There is that danger. Logic is a danger. Thought is a danger. So I see all the dangers around me. I'm caught in all these dangers, and I want to find out if what that man is saying is the truth. And someone says, I think there's no way or procedure to find that out. There is no prescription. I cannot tell anyone to find out how to find out. I can say that I feel it with all my being that something is true, or maybe I can convey it through my life. But I cannot convince anyone through words or reason or by any method. And in the same way, I cannot convince myself. Later on he says, Dr. Bohm is a scientist, a physicist. He's clear-thinking, logical. Suppose someone goes to him and asks, is what Krishnamurti says the truth? How is he going to answer? I'm very interested because I've heard so many people who are illogical and careless say he's speaking the truth. But I go to a serious thinker, careful with the use of words, and ask, please tell me if he's telling the truth. Not some crooked thing covered up. How is he going to answer me? Someone says, but then why should I go to Dr. Bohm, much as I respect him? Later on, Kay says, no, please be simple. I want to know if Krishnamurti is speaking the truth. Dr. Bohm has known Krishnamurti for several years. He has a good, trained mind, so I go to him and ask him. And the questioner says, all he can say is, I know this man, this is how he affects me, he has changed my life. And suddenly a note may be struck in the other one. Okay, no, I want it straight from the horse's mouth. Then the questioner says, well, Dr. Bohm is here, let him tell us. And here's where probably Bohm starts talking. I think I could say to him that when we did discuss these things, it was from the emptiness in that I felt it was a direct perception. Okay, yes. Is direct perception unrelated to logic? And he says it doesn't come from logic. Okay, but you are logical all the same. And he says that may come later, not at that moment. Okay, so you are telling me I have found out that man is telling the truth because I had a direct perception, an insight into what he is saying. And he says, yes. Okay, now be careful, because I have heard a disciple of some guru say exactly the same thing. And Bohm says, I've also heard a guru say this, but a little later, by looking at it logically, I saw the thing was nonsense. When I was looking at the fact and the logic, I saw that it did not fit. So I would say that in addition to direct perception, I have constantly examined this logically. Okay, so you are saying that perception has not blinded you, and with that perception goes logic also. Yes, logic and fact. Okay, so perception first, then logic. Not first logic and then perception. Boom, yes. That is what it always has to be. Krishnamurti. So through perception and then with logic you see that it is the truth. Hasn't this been done by the devout Christians? And the questioner says, oh, logic is not enough because we have to see how people actually behave as well. I see that Christians say certain things, but when we look at the whole of what they do, it doesn't fit. Okay, isn't there a terrible danger in this? Questioner, I'm sure there is a danger. Okay, so you are saying that one has to walk in danger. Yes. Okay, now I begin to understand what you're saying. One has to move in a field which is full of danger, full of snakes and pitfalls. Which means that one has to be tremendously awake. Okay, so I have learned from talking to him that this is a very dangerous thing. He has said you can only understand whether Krishnamurti is speaking the truth if you're really prepared to walk in a field which is full of pitfalls. Is that right? Yes. It is a field which is full of mines, the razor's edge path. Are you prepared to do that? One's whole being says, be secure. Questioner, that's the only way to do anything. Okay, I have learned to be aware of the dangers around me and also to face danger all the time and therefore to have no security. The inquirer might say, that's too much and go away. So this is what I want to get at. Can the mind, which has been conditioned for centuries to be secure, abandon that and say, I will walk into danger? That is what we're saying. It is logical, but in a sense it is illogical. The questioner says, in principle, that is the way all science works. Okay, yes, that is right. So it also means I don't trust anybody, any guru, any prophet. I trust my wife because she loves me and I love her, but that is irrelevant. Questioner, the danger has to be explained too. From one point it is dangerous, from another it is not. I have to investigate. My whole conditioning is very dangerous. Okay, so we are saying, I have walked in danger and I have found the logic of this danger. Through the perception of the danger, I have found the truth of what Kay is saying. And there's no security, no safety in this, whereas all the others give me safety. And the questioner says, security becomes the ultimate danger. Okay, of course. Questioner says, what you have described is actually the scientific approach. They say every statement must be in danger of being false. It has been put that way. Every statement must be in danger of being false. Okay, that is perfectly right. I've learned a lot. Have you? Here are two selections from Krishnamurti's notebook. Both of them were written in India in the year 1962, but the notebook was written in other countries where he lived, always temporarily. This was written in New Delhi. The cold had been too severe. It had been below freezing. The hedge had been burnt brown. The brown leaves had fallen off. The lawn was grey-brown, the color of the earth. Except for a few yellow pansies and roses, the garden was bare. It had been too cold, and the poor, as usual, were suffering and dying. Population was exploding, and people were dying. You saw them shivering with hardly a thing on, in dirty rags. An old woman was shaking from head to foot, hugging herself, the few teeth chattering. A young woman was washing herself, and a torn cloth by the cold river, and an old man was coughing deeply and heavily, and children were playing, laughing, and shouting. It was an exceptionally cold winter, they said, and many were dying. The red rose and the yellow pansy were intensely alive, burning with color. You couldn't take your eyes off them, and those two colors seemed to expand and fill the empty garden. Even though the children were shouting, that shivering old woman was everywhere, the incredible yellow and red and the inevitable death. Color was God, and death was beyond the gods. It was everywhere, and so was color. You could not separate the two, and if you did, then there was no living. Neither could you separate love from death, and if you did, it was no longer beauty. Every color is separated, made much of, but there's only color. And when you see every different color as only color, then only is there splendor in color. The red rose and the yellow pansy were not different colors, but color that filled the bare garden with glory. The sky was pale blue, blue of a cold, rainless winter, but it was the blue of all colors. You saw it, and you were of it. The noises of the city faded, but color, imperishable, endured. Sorrow has been made respectable. 1,000 explanations have been given to it. It has been made a way to virtue, to enlightenment. It has been enshrined in churches, and in every house it is made much of and given sanctity. He's talking about sorrow. Everywhere there is sympathy for it with tears and blessing. And so sorrow continues. Every heart knows it, abiding with it or escaping from it, which only gives to it greater strength to flourish and to darken the heart. But sorrow is the way of self-pity with its immeasurable memories. Sorrow has its root in memory, in the dead things of yesterday. But yesterday is always very important. It is the machinery that gives significance to life. It is the richness of the known, the things possessed. The source of thought is in the yesterday. The yesterdays that give meaning to life, to the life of sorrow. It is yesterday that is sorrow, and without cleansing the mind of yesterday, there will always be sorrow. You cannot clean it by thought, for thought is the continuation of yesterday. And so also are the many ideas and ideals. The loss of yesterday is the beginning of self-pity and the dullness of sorrow. Sorrow sharpens thought, but thought breeds sorrow. Thought is memory. The self-critical awareness of this whole process choicelessly frees the mind from sorrow. Seeing this complex fact without opinion, without judgment, is the ending of sorrow. The known must come to an end without effort for the unknown to be. And here's a short selection which is about the river Ganges. High up in the mountains, among the barren rocks, with not a tree or bush, was a little stream coming out of massive, unapproachable rock. It was hardly a stream, it was a trickle. As it came down, it made a waterfall, just a murmur. And it came down, down to the valleys, and it was already shouting of its strength, the long way it would go through towns, valleys, woods, and open spaces. It was going to be an irresistible river, sweeping over its banks, purifying itself as it went along, crashing over rocks, flowing into far places, endlessly flowing to the sea. It wasn't getting to the sea that mattered, but being a river, so wide, so deep, rich and splendid. It would enter the sea and disappear into the vast, bottomless waters, but the sea was far away, many, many thousand miles, but from now until then, it was life, beauty, and ceaseless merriment. None could stop that, not even the factories and dams. It was really a marvelous river, wide, deep, with so many cities on its banks, so carelessly free, and never abandoning itself. All life was there upon its banks, green fields, forests, solitary houses, death, love, and destruction. There were long, wide bridges over it, graceful and well used. Other streams and rivers joined it, but she was the mother of all rivers, the little ones and the big ones. She was always full, ever purifying herself, and of an evening it was a blessing to watch her, with deepening color in the clouds and her waters golden. But the little trickle, so far away, amongst those gigantic rocks, which seemed so concentrated in producing it, was the beginning of life, and its ending was beyond its banks and the seas. Meditation was like that river, only it had no beginning and no ending. There was no cause, and its movement was its renewal. It was always new. It never gathered to become old. It never got sullied, for it had no roots in time. It is good to meditate, not forcing it, not making any effort, beginning with a trickle and going beyond time and space, where thought and feeling cannot enter, where experience is not. We will end here for today.